Hey there racing fans, welcome along to the Fuchs 500, round 3 of the Hankook Super Series, home to the BNT NZ SuperTourers. Today it's race 2 and race 3. Ryan, fill us in on the action.
70 laps of distance, a fuel stop, a driver change. Oh, it's going to be heated, Joe.
It is, and we've got Van Giz and Simon Evans from Smeg Racing in pole position. Yesterday, Van Giz straight off the cuff. How many seconds ahead did he get?
I think they're about 4.6 seconds by the end of the race, so absolutely smashing it. They'll want to go the same way today, out the front, and just do their thing. They've been doing it all season. Let's see if they can do it again. For sure, and we do have some guys hot in pursuit. We've got Richard Moore, Tim Slade, and of course Murphy will be trying to close the gap, won't he? Yeah, Murphy will obviously want to get a race win here at Pukekohe in front of his fans here. He loves Pukekohe, so let's see what Murph's got to bring to the table. For sure, for sure. I'm Joe Holly, this is Ryan. We're going to be bringing you all the action right here, the Fuchs 500 BNT NZ SuperTourers Race 2. Hey there racing fans, welcome along to the Fuchs 500.
7 starts, can they win another one? Championship is certainly not over, Shane Drake, as we head to the grids here for the second race here at Pukekohe. Simon Evans, Shane Van Gisbergen off the pole. Evans will start, Heimgartner and Russell from 2. Heimgartner starting the number 22. Dominic Story will start the number 9, sharing with Nick Percat. Cameron Waters, Mitch Cunningham out of position 4.
Row number 3, it's Angus Fogg and Tony D'Alberto, and alongside them Tim Edgell and Steve Owen. Row number 4, Jack Perkins and Greg Murphy, and alongside him teammate M3, Richard Moore and Tim Slade. Moore will start the 10, John McIntyre and Mark Gibson. McIntyre will start the Blackwood Protective 47, Paul Manuel, Shay Davies next in the 15. Manuel will start that machine. Gene Rollinson and Chris Hanley from 11, and we do have the Varney weight car back out there on the grid after some gearbox issues. Onboard camera systems with Jack Perkins in the Mike Perro number 1. Finished in 6th place for race number 1, John McIntyre on board. Blackwoods, number 47. Long night for the team, found a few little issues after race number 1. Dominic Story, impressive in race number 1. Did a fantastic job, good car speed in the AV8, Holden Commodore, paired with former Bathurst winner Nick Percat. 4th place finish for Dominic Story and Percat in race number 1, and the pole sitter, race 1 winner Simon Evans will start the Smeg Racing Holden Commodore, the championship leaders. So the Sangyong safety car will pick up this field. So 12 starters. Wait Varney Ford back out on track after a gearbox change. They were back in the AV8 workshop in West Auckland last night to get that reconfigured. Yeah, that team not currently holding a spare gearbox is on a lease program of that vehicle. However, they've got the help of Wayne Anderson to get that car back going again, which is very good. Problems in the background there.
Cunningham and Waters, a lot of smoke out of the Cunningham Construction Ford.
It is a lot of smoke. One of the cars on fire.
Cam Waters starting that car, but looking at that, I don't think it's going to start. That's going to leave a gap from the second row. Trying to get back up and running, but it looks like a lot of smoke.
He's going to take off again.
Or is it steam?
Well, it'd be unusual for the car to have an issue like that.
He's on the radio.
On a warm-up lap.
He's on the radio to the team. Well, that'll be devastating for them because, well, actually, they were running 5th in race number 1, and we missed it at the end. They ran out of fuel with that fuel pressure problem, Drakey, and you know, it cost them a top 6 finish.
Guys, just down here with the Mitch Cunningham, Cameron Waters car, and they're saying gearbox is the issue with that.
Wow. Oh, that is heartbreak. So we're down by 1 before the race start. Now, what this could also do is maybe, if they don't retrieve this car quick enough, have a delayed start, although the crew here at Pukekohe, and they do work around some of the other tracks, do a sensational job, Humie and Westy and all of the guys. Certainly a step up from the old days where we had the fire truck going the reverse way around, going the long way around the track to recover one of the old NZV8s. Is
Mitch Cunningham on the phone to someone and obviously organising bits. Jody Wilson, Gareth Hayward from Timaru, part of the South Canterbury crew.
Race management, start delayed.
And,
start delayed.
Delay this lap.
That car won't be far away from being moved away. You just see the... Oh! Spinning some rubber there to get rid of it.
Yeah, it might be locked in gear.
Right, so that might be a little bit more serious than what we thought.
Yeah, they might have to put that on one of the recovery trucks if that's the case.
So the gearboxes on these cars still are having minor problems. They take a lot of maintenance. It's just the torque that these SuperTourers put out, and they have to continually have these gears and gearbox crack tested to try and ensure that it's going to last. But a lot of people do take precautionary measures of changing it between the smaller and the larger races.
The car has already been out today, rides earlier on in the morning, so obviously whatever's happened did not manifest itself through the ride part of the session earlier on this morning. There's Cameron Waters out of the car.
It's pictures of the team there, so they'll be trying to get ahead of the game, get a gearbox ready.
Well, at least they do have a little bit more time to get that turned around between races 2 and 3.
It'd be nice. They're going to put it on the tray, so they will get it back to the pits, which should ensure it does make it for race number 3.
These recovery vehicles were built up around the Hamilton ITM 400 and up there with some of the most state-of-the-art recovery equipment anywhere in the world. I know the Australian GT guys were impressed with them. They've got a couple down at Cromwell with Tony Quinn's Islands Motorsport Park. And they were impressed with the recovery time off those flat decks, because those GT cars especially are very, very low. So disappointment there for Cam Waters. Might be wishing he'd stayed home in Australia this weekend and maybe run the late model somewhere up on the dirt. That's where Paul Morris is. He was at Archerfield Speedway last night racing his sprint car. He's not available this weekend to go alongside Andre Heimgartner.
You'd be surprised that they might have run after that massive storm that hit Brisbane a couple of days ago. Hailstones and flooding.
Yeah, well, the big floods quite a few years ago. Archerfield Speedway was completely underwater. On board with Simon Evans here. So a delayed start. So a delayed start on board, looking over the rear boot lid, the Smeg Racing Holden. So going into this race, they started the weekend with a 52-point lead over the M3 number 10, Richard Moore and Tim Slade. That's gone out by a further 12 points to 15 points. 67 points is the lead for the Endurance Series. So here's the reason for the delayed start, the recovery, a gearbox issue for the Cunningham Waters Ford before the start of race number 2.
And you can see the rear wheels are locked solid on that number 32 Robert Cunningham construction car. So that must have been quite a catastrophic failure. It's not often you see smoke when they're coming out of the car from a gearbox when they're just on a cruisy lap.
May not be a gearbox. I'm just wondering if it might in fact be a diff. So here's the reason for the delayed start, the retrieval of the Cameron Waters Mitch Cunningham Ford Falcon. Just with the team reported a gearbox issue, but I'm just wondering if it may be in fact a diff with the way that the rear wheels are locked up. It seems odd unless it's had a catastrophic failure to actually lock up the entire driveline. So with this delayed start, Mark Pedersen's down in pit lane. Mark, is this going to do anything with the fuel strategies, obviously with the compulsory pit stop for fuel for the 70-lap race?
Yeah, look, it quite possibly could do, Jamie, for the simple reason being is that the pit window is effectively open now. Let me quickly run through that to clarify the rules. What the rules state is that with the compulsory fuel stop, the car has to go past the start-finish line 2 times. So the race turns green, car goes around the second time, then you can come in merrily in your own time and do the fuel stop. Where the fuel window finishes is that you've got to come in 2 laps before the end of the race. It's now that simple. We're actually in that window now, and I would think that some of these teams will come straight in because you're better off getting the fuel stop done while the cars aren't at complete racing speed. So, of course, once the safety car comes out, you peel in, you may save yourself maybe 5 or 6 seconds versus doing it later on when the cars are at 100% throttle.
Yeah, well, that could be crucial, but they're going to go racing here. Oh, there's contact in the background. Angus Fogg ran into the back of Dominic Story before they got away. Dominic Story must have had a problem, and look at the gap from the first two that got away. Now, they haven't jumped the start because everyone concertinaed up and behind Dominic Story, who was then collected by Angus Fogg. What a bizarre start to this race. 68 laps to go. And as Mark Patterson's just explained, the fuel window is now open. They have to pass the start-finish line twice. And to complete it, they have to also complete that fuel stop before the penultimate lap of the 70 laps. What a bizarre start, Shane.
Yeah, something obviously went on the number 9.
He's up and running again, though.
It's like it just sort of stopped him. He could have potentially hit the kill switch or something in the car.
Or the pit lane limiter accidentally. We have seen that before. Simon Evans out in front, chased by Andre Heimgartner. These two have had a couple of good battles already so far in the series. Two of the young guns in New Zealand motorsport on board with John McIntyre and the Blackwood Protector Ford.
Race management, clarification, there are 68 left to go.
A bit of a look up into the Hankook hairpin.
So look at the gap. Look at the gap back to the rest of the field. You've got Foggy in third, Tim Edgell in fourth. And these cars were compromised by whatever happened to Dominic Story and the SG Fleet number 9 on board with McIntyre up over the top of the hill.
Well, effectively, they've lost sort of like about 4 seconds.
Yep, at least that, and it was just as the race started. You saw Story pretty much stop mid-track, and Foggy actually ran clear into the back of him. And that is Story up ahead, Jan McIntyre, as Heimgartner was having a look at Evans. Down towards the BNTSs. Not quite close enough to get the job done. Now for the SMEC team with a 67-point lead for the Endurance Series. They need to finish races now. With 2 races left to go, they cannot afford a DNF. No one can afford a DNF here for those that are in the championship equation, because there's 300 points left up for grab for the Endurance Series. Shane van Gisbergen leading the individual points. And that carries on through into the Sprint Series at the end of January at Hampton Downs for round 4. The 14-15 BNT NZ SuperTourers. So full of fuel. 105.3 for Evans, 105.28 for Heimgartner. Similar pace. Gap back to Angus Fogg is 2.6 seconds. See if there's any damage on the front of the Property Tudor Holden.
It all looks relatively intact.
Left front of the splitter had a little bit of a gap to the guard, but looks like he's managed to get away with it as Heimgartner again is working on trying to get to Simon Evans. He's
got speed in different parts of the track, Jamie. Looks like he's good round 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then Simon is stronger after and through the BNTSs. Here's Sean Varney.
Yeah, Sean Varney.
See, well, Heimgartner's very, very close. He'll have a go here.
Smeg Holden very, very good on the slow to medium speed corners with drive down. Heimgartner's going to try and stay with him. Pit window for the driver change, 32 to 38. As yet, no one has taken a fuel stop. So a compulsory fuel stop with 25 litres. Gold Force 1098 to go on board each of these race cars and the compulsory driver change. For the top 2. Back there in third, still a couple of seconds down though.
Oh, Foggy giving the Property Tudors car a bit of jandle out of goal corner, which we saw Shay Davies do in race 1.
Yeah, poor Manuel just ran wide off the exit 2. So the top 3 in the 5.3s, Edgell at a 5.9. Here is Richard Moore.
So they're taking on their fuel.
Taking their fuel on lap 5.
Now, we'll talk to Mark Patterson in a minute about, but there's been some slight changes in refueling, and these guys actually didn't take full advantage of that.
So, Mark, that was an early time to pit, the first car to take the fuel stop.
Was 11.5 seconds, guys. They probably left it in a little bit longer because, as we covered off at Hampton Downs, there's a decarbonation line in the fuel tank. When they're putting it in, so they probably wait a little bit long. But hey, look, a little bit of a developing story here. We'll keep an eye on this. The rules state that you cannot pass a car after a restart until you've gone past the start-finish line. And of course, we saw the Story car slow down and 2 cars pass them. So they actually are reviewing that as we speak.
Well, they can't act on that. I mean, when the guy stops in the middle of the track, what are you supposed to do?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, guys. Say, but it's just under review.
You just hope there's a bit of common sense used here and applied accordingly.
I'd be surprised if he hasn't jumped on the pit speed limiter. Now, Mark, here's the replay. So there's Story either struggling to get gears, the car's shut down out of the hairpin as the safety car peels off. Evans and Heimgartner pick up the throttle. And look at the carnage in behind them as the cars are fanning out all over the racetrack. This is on board with McIntyre. Murphy's got in the back of Edgell. So it's Perkins in the car. So there was a couple of pieces of contact further back. Back on board with McIntyre. Evans has just done a 104.9. Heimgartner 105.1. Fogg a 105.1. Edgell a 105.6. Mark Gibson and the team. John McIntyre Racing, Jason Leifting. They're on screen. The team members with JMR.
And that's a fair set of choppers he's got on there, isn't it, for Movember?
Yeah, he's in the Movember spirit. So, Mark, coming back to refuelling, there's also a slightly amended rule change with where the refueler has to be going in and coming off the fuel stops as well.
Mark's obviously having a scone and a cup of tea or something down there.
He's probably trying to get some feedback on what happened with that restart, which was just bizarre.
Guys, actually, they've just spoken to Dominic Story, and they basically said that Foggy got in the back of him first, and that's what caused him to slow down, and it caused the Constantino effect. So, as we know, guys, two sides to every story.
All right, thanks, Mark. Hey, Mark, we're sorry, just talking about with the refueling, there's now an extra line marked out on the pit lane, the working lane with the refueling. Can you explain that for us and how that has to work?
Tell you what I'll do, guys, I'll go one step further. So next time the car comes in, we'll film the whole thing for you and work it through, because the new line is very critical, because that's the go, no-go line, and basically the whole pit stop's based around that.
All right, thanks, mate. We'll keep an eye out for that. Evans a 104.9. Heimgartner still good pace, 105.0.59 of a second is the gap. On board with Jack Perkins. Fifth, chasing down Tim Edgell. Perkins' last lap was a 5.7 versus a 6.0 for Edgell, so Perkins has got some good speed early. There's Murphy, Paul Forgy, Graham Moore there in the background. That is Richard's dad. So Perkins looking very, very racy here.
Might be looking racy, but that number one car still not looking like it's behaving itself in the way it should. Big handfuls of wheel here and there.
And Dominic Story's coming to him as well, because he was 6/10 quicker than Perkins on the last lap, at 105.1 for Story, continuing their good pace throughout the weekend in the AV8 SG Fleet Holden Commodore. Very different lines up over the top of the hill there for Edgell and Perkins.
Yep, the drivers and the cars can behave in different ways, and sometimes you need to adapt to drive the cars. Perkins goes a little bit wide, and Story now right on the tail of the number one, and given his speed in race one, I would suggest that he's going to be on for having a go.
And likewise, Heimgartner took a 10th out of Evans' lead. The gap is down to 0.47 of a second. Perkins on Edgell, Story on Perkins. Battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Angus Fogg pretty much by himself, 5 seconds out of the lead in 3rd. Reminding everyone that the co-drivers like when it's on, the green light, it means the co-driver is in the car. For this race, I think 7 of the main drivers started as Perkins gets the job done down at the hairpin.
Well, Jack had to make that stick because he could see Story was about to have a go, so he stuck the number one down the inside of Edgell, and now it's going to be this man. Look at the speed difference he's got coming over Sound Hill.
Yeah, that's a big difference up over the top of the hill. Pretty much identical lap times for Evans, Heimgartner. The gap's still 0.47. There's nothing in it out in front, and this is the battle group for 4th, 5th and 6th. In behind Story will be John McIntyre. 105.5 his last lap. He was a half second quicker than this group of cars.
Oh, you should see Story have a go. He's in the tow.
It's the old mini trick, the windscreen wiper lifted on the draft. That's when you know when to pull out. That's an old mini trick, Drake. You've done a bit of that.
I did it once. Drove my dad's car when he broke his foot.
I'll ring your dad after this race. Doug would be a better one to tell me about that. There was an old rumour about Mini 7 racing and drafting. So Perkins looking back. Yeah, McIntyre definitely closing in on the back of Edgell. So Dominic Story has got the pass.
Oh, look at that. What an off.
Big moment there.
Wow. He got too much curb at turn 10 and it flicked that car. That was reminiscent of Andre Heimgartner in qualifying.
Yeah, that was one of the big moments of the weekend.
Boy.
Heimgartner's closing the gap up in front. It's down to 0.36. Took another 10th out of Simon Evans. On lap 13 of 70, pit window opens up. In fact, he's closer than 0.4. He's right up underneath the rear wing. Yeah, like we saw from Shane Van Gisbergen at the previous round, he actually let Andre go there for a little while. Just let him, as Shane said, wear the tyres out on the car, and Shane went back by him. So Andre showing a little bit more patience here. It all comes down to these fuel stops and driver changes, even over the duration of a 70-lap race. Just the one car to take a fuel stop, and that was the Slade Moore number 10. So they've got that out of the way early. And I suppose, Shane, the chances of a safety car lessens with fewer cars out on the racetrack.
Yes, it does. And they're relatively spread out thanks to that restart issue at the hairpin. So when you've got battle groups going on, and I mean, there's one here, there's one further back with Perkins and Story.
It's the Slade Moore 10, a lap down. They have taken their first stop, the fuel stop, compulsory fuel stop. Every one of these cars has to take, and of course the driver change. Pit window 32 to 38 for the driver change.
This is as close he's got. There's Mark Heimgartner, Aaron Russell beside on his left.
So Evans and Heimgartner both in the 105.4s the last lap. Foggy just dropped off with a 105.8. Everyone else pretty much in the high 5s, low 6s. So top three cars just a little bit more pace on the rest of the field, but there is some traffic for that battle for 4th, 5th and 6th, as we've seen, and 7th with McIntyre on the back of that group as the leaders. Cross down to the line.
Oh, it's starting, Heimgartner's starting to show the front of that hydraulic car a bit more, and Evans goes wide. Turn 1, he's got to slow it down a lot more than normal here.
Just a half a car width wide.
Back on to the back straight this time. And he was very close. He's very, very close as well.
So just hearing on race radio that there is an investigation for the race start procedure. Just missed the numbers, but I assume, Drakey, that that's going to be probably 3-9. Shane Van Gisbergen and Andrew Waite in the Smeg pit. Andrew's pitted next door with the Varney team. So Simon lost a little bit more time on that last lap, a 5.6 versus a 5.4 for Heimgartner. But you're right, Shane, it looks that Simon is a little bit better, probably in the second half of the lap off the hairpin, with that slower corner drive down off the exit. In fact, Heimgartner loses 3/10 on that lap. Gap back out to 0.47, but it's nothing in it. 15 laps complete. 15 laps just like that in the blink of an eye. But look at the gap these two have got now over Angus Fogg. Now, just looking at the pace of Richard Moore, he's doing 6.0s. He's about a half second down on what these two cars are doing. Mind you, he's got 25 more litres on board as well, so that could probably account for that. So Story's got ahead of Perkins now. Up into 4th for Dominic Story.
Oh, look at that. Story backs it in to the BNTS's. Spectacular driving with the SG Fleet Commodore.
Again, over this longer race, got to be mindful to kick the tyre under the car. I know these Hankooks are durable, but it's a little bit hotter here for race number 2. This is the pass for 4th. And in the end, Shane did it pretty easily and did it.
And so it enables passing. And sometimes people can get frustrated when you do block and someone gives someone else a bit of a hurry up, and then it all turns ugly. So it helps the flow of the race.
McIntyre's just stabilised behind Tim Edgell. Edgell's car's looked to have got a little bit better as it's burnt some fuel off.
He come under immense attack at the end of race 1
from Richard Moore.
Richard Moore.
He did a good job in the end, didn't he?
It was a great battle.
And a great return for them, considering the dramas they've had. They've had drive-throughs, they lost an engine at Taupo. Things haven't quite gone to plan for the Chester's team, former New Zealand Formula 4 champion. So Evans a 105.4, Heimgartner a 105.4, the gap out to 0.55. Fogg 104.9, loses another half a second. The gap back to Fogg is 7.8 seconds. And then a similar gap back to Story now. Story's in the 6.0s, but he did make that pass on that previous lap. Again, Evans and Heimgartner, identical lap times, 105.3. Heimgartner just a shade quicker at 700ths quicker. And again, Foggy loses another 7/10. And looking at the more Slade pass, he's doing the same pace now as the leaders, but he is a lap down, having taken their fuel stop. On board with John McIntyre, and hey, let's take a lap around Pukekohe. And if anyone, Drakey, you've probably done a few.
Not in one of these cars, unfortunately, but we'll go up to 6th gear, down to the back straight. 245, 250 Ks. Some guys choose to go down to 3rd here. Some choose to go down to 2nd, and they take that option now. Keep back up to 4th gear to the Hankook hairpin and to the slowest point of track, and McIntyre.
Oh, just about didn't get that stopped up.
He didn't quite pull it up to 55 Ks there. And they'll go all the way up to 5th about now. And this is a very difficult part of the track, 205 and back down to 175 Ks, and they'll accelerate again up to 245. So you actually, 245, you're actually going faster at this part of the track than what you do at the other end. And back in my day, we were considerably faster down the back straight because there was no BNTSs.
The supercars, they were approaching 300 kilometres down there, the old GT cars. Mark Pedersen down on pit lane, not far away from this pit window. What do you got?
Guys, I'm actually going to go through the fuel stop strategy and how they go about it now. Now here is the Gulf Force fuel churn, right? So this here is the line that all the teams have to start with. And we'll go down with a trusty little pointer. This line here, or this little swage, once the fuel gets to that, the guys can walk away, their job's done. But the most important thing is this black line right here, guys. This is the decarmation line. This is where the team personnel have to be standing between here and the black line, essentially, so the car can pull in. This is where the guys have got to start doing the servicing. But to finish the fuel stop, the guy with the fuel bowser or the big mechanism, he has to physically step back into the garage. Once it's here, game on.
Thanks, Mark. While that was happening, John McIntyre managed to get by Tim Edgell, and geez, that's a big gap with that pass.
Something's gone.
Edgell, it may have pitted, actually. Yeah, Tim Edgell.
We're hearing he is in the pit lane.
Yeah, Edgell in pit lane. Second of the cars to make the pit stop. He just disappeared off the shot there. Either had a problem or he'd peeled off into pit lane, and in pit lane he is. Leaders, Evans 105.48, Heimgartner 105.48, the gap 0.3 of a second out in front. Chester's Holden team with their fuel stop, getting it out of the way on lap 19. Oh, nearly stalled it. Nearly stalled it.
Looked pretty clinical.
Mate, talk about clinical, boys. She was 8.6 seconds until the little bit of a tardy getaway.
Wow, that's one of the fastest ones we would have seen over the last 2 rounds.
Fastest so far, guys, and actually probably second longer to get the fuel mechanism than what they hoped. So that's a really well-rehearsed pit stop.
Well, it's going to bring them back out in front of the Slade Moore entry. And that's where they started, grid 6 versus grid 8, so that's probably pretty similar, although the 10 has had a few more laps. A little bit less fuel in it now as well.
Just looking there, Angus Fogg's actually closing that gap on Tim Slade and Dominic Story, who is, well, we've had a change at the front.
Yeah, while that fuel stop was happening, Andre Heimgartner's got ahead of Simon Evans.
Well, it's
identical lap times the last lap, but Andre got to within 0.3, which is basically what you're seeing now on track, but Andre's got the job done. And through to the lead goes Heimgartner. Here it is. It's picked him up out of the draft, under brakes into the BNTSs. Yep. Simon doesn't need to fight it. Just getting a call from race radio that there's a lot of debris on the circuit between turns 2 and 3. Just Heimgartner a little bit sideways off the exit there.
that's actually quite a concern that message has come through. I mean, that's there's only about 30 metres of track between turn and 3, and very hard to move off the racing line. Heimgartner's really only just opening that gap up on Evans there, but Evans doesn't have to do anything stupid here.
Just to confirm, I think I just heard on race radio that Angus Fogg may be getting some form of penalty for gaining an advantage before that race start with that restart procedure. So we'll try and get Mark Pedersen to follow that up if that is the case.
Hey guys, just something else to follow up on as well. Keep in mind that Andre Heimgartner's actually had a co-driver change this weekend with Aaron Russell joining him in. Now Aaron's actually 40 kilos lighter than what Paul Morris was, but more importantly it's 5 to 6 seconds faster doing the driver change. So, you know, let's not rule these guys out, because albeit Aaron's a little bit inexperienced, they've got a lot more speed and a lot less weight in the car to push.
And just as that happens, John McIntyre has got around Jack Perkins for the 5th position. So Heimgartner out in front, and he's starting to get a bit of a gap already on Evans, getting his head down before the compulsory driver change.
Well, Perkins goes wide through turn 2 and 3, and we just had confirmation that the debris is not there any longer. So that number 1 car obviously not on the pace, and Murphy had problem in race 1 with locking a wheel, pushing hard. They both had issues in qualifying and going off the track back at turn 2 and 3.
Well, it was a long night for this team getting that car turned around. They found a whole lot of different little issues with the Blackwood Protector Ford after race number 1. So that's proving to be a bonus here at the moment, because that car's got very, very good car speed. Lap 24 about to be completed. Heimgartner, your race leader, now 1.3 seconds ahead of Simon Evans.
There's Gene Rollinson there in the Ferndale Farms, number 27.
Currently in 7th position.
And they've pulled in Paul Seprenick from Queensland, who engineered the Super Black Falcon at Bathurst to help them with some setup data this weekend. And from all accounts, those boys are very happy with the information that Paul's worked through with them and got a better race car. They haven't had much luck with this number 27 car at Pukekohe before.
Paul Seprenick, of course, is the man behind getting these cars built up at Pace Innovations in Brisbane. Ran the Super Black car at Bathurst as part of Ford Performance Racing, where Andre and Ant Pedersen both did a fantastic job. Sadly, no Ant Pedersen and Johnny Reid this weekend. I think Ant's Facebook post was commercial realities, was what he stated. Obviously concentrating on the development series in Australia, which is, you know, that's a big investment to be a part of that package.
And talking of that, not the man behind the wheel of this number 15 car, but Shay Davies will make his DVS debut. His manual goes just a little bit haywire at the top of Sound Hill. Davies will run at Sydney next weekend. And this man, Sean Varney, be glad to get some laps actually so far this weekend.
Yeah, didn't start the first race with a gearbox issue. They got that rebuilt during the night and back out there. They are currently in the 9th position. Heimgartner extends further, took 6/10 out of Simon Evans on that last lap. The gap's actually out to 2 seconds now, so Heimgartner looking very, very good out in front.
The car looking extremely nervous over the bumps. Just wandering around quite a lot as Fogg has now got past Richard Moore, and he has got the Owen cars in front of him, which is a lap down, with Tim Edgew at the wheel.
Yeah, the 8 and the 10 have both taken their fuel stops. So Foggy's in the middle of them, the 8 and the 10 battling for position, but they are a lap down on the race leader, Andre Heimgartner. He's got that gap stabilised to 2.1 seconds back to Simon Evans. 7 laps away from the compulsory driver change pit window opening. Have to take that stop between laps 32 and 38.
Simon may be taking it easy on that Smeg car as Moore gets very close to the back of Foggy.
Well, from a championship equation, they just need to keep within a couple of positions of the Slade Moore entry. They've got a 67-point lead, 300 points up for grabs, so you definitely can't afford a DNF. But the difference between, so it's 150 points for a win here. First to second is 12 points. First to third is only 21 points. So while that's a big loss, they do have the advantage and they don't need to panic. They just need to get the car to the finish, as does Slade and Moore. And third in the points, Heimgartner and Russell. Foggy, big oversteer on that first part of the hill.
The other thing about it, Jamie, is tyres, and this track is predominantly right-hand turns, and it is very hard on the right-hand side, sorry, left-hand side, especially left rear. A lot of load through corners like this and turn one, as we just saw. And with the fact that the Hankook tyres, a new batch has come out this weekend, you know, could we just be seeing a conservative approach?
Could very well do it. It's a little bit hotter. In pit lane is Dominic's story. This will be a fuel stop. Still 6 laps short of the compulsory pit window for the driver change.
Mark, I just noticed there that those guys were actually well in their garage, the fuel man, when he walked out to the car, not using that 1 metre line.
Mate, absolutely nuts, Shane. You're exactly right, that they probably lost 2 or 3 seconds, and then they actually gave the thing that's full quota of fuel instead of going down to the swage line like we pointed out, and that's at least another 2 or 3 seconds worth. Look, carrying on this Dominic story, common sense is prevailing. They're going to review after the race that started sequence and anybody jump starting.
That's good, mate. I mean, with that new rule now, as we'll probably see these guys, because these guys are slick, they should be almost be standing right beside the car and just pop it in. They're choosing to be further back as well.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to get that in.
Maybe they're all sort of airing a bit of safety on the side of it.
Simon's away. That looked like it took a little bit extra time.
14 seconds all up from start to finish.
Yeah, what did we see from the Slade Moore? That was 11 odd, wasn't it?
11 and a half, yeah. 8.9 seconds for Timmy Edgew and co.
Right, well, this will G up the Heimgartner crew, the number 22 car.
Look for some fast laps for them. Remembering they were an entirely different fuel strategy to everyone on pit lane at Hampton Downs. So looking at the out lap, Evans and Van Gisbergen, they actually took 3 seconds out of Dominic Story's out lap, so that's going to drop them back. So they haven't gone a lap down to Heimgartner. We saw with the Slade Moore entry, they did go down a lap after their fuel stop. So there is the race leader, Andre Heimgartner.
Yeah, but those guys were sort of 5 or 6 seconds in arrears because of that messy start.
Now, we said he was going to try and get some good laps down as we have a look at this fantastic overhead shot. He lost half a second on that last lap. He's dropped back to a 6.2. Angus Fogg at a 6.0. So Heimgartner lost a bit of time, whether he was maybe lapping another car. I see the Varney Ford just in behind. He may have lost a little bit of time there. He's going to continue on. And they don't have to take their fuel stops. They don't have to complete their fuel stops until the start of the penultimate lap. Basically 2 laps to go. But the pit window for the compulsory driver change is not too far away. Just 4 laps, 3 laps now. Opens on lap 32.
Foggy right on the back there of Edgell. He'll be getting annoyed at that. Running in dirty air, trying to keep his pace up.
Well, Fogg's second on track at the moment behind Heimgartner. The gap 16 seconds. Angus Fogg has lost to Heimgartner in this opening stint. So here's a replay. Oh, that's the Tim Edgell Chester's Holden going straight through the BNTS's.
And Foggy just having a look, but he's not close enough. This will be his chance as Edgell goes in a little bit deep.
While it's not a battle for position, Drakey, effectively it is on the outside because they're trying to lose as little time as they can in traffic. As Foggy gets it done.
Every second counts, Jamie, and you know you've got to take your chances.
Both lighting up the rears off the hairpin. Heimgartner 105.3 now. He's picked up the pace. He was nearly a second quicker on that lap than the previous lap. Fogg in second, McIntyre in third, Jack Perkins fourth, Gene Rollinson fifth, Paul Manuel sixth, Simon Evans in seventh. Evans has taken their fuel stop. Heimgartner, all of the top 6 have not as yet. So the first car to take the fuel stop is Evans.
Tim Slade in the background there around turn 1, completely sideways. That number 10 Mike Pero car. Here the tyres gyrating.
Now the other gainer will be Story. He's actually ahead of Edgell and Moore on track as those that have taken their fuel stops. Simon Evans, last lap was a 5.7. This is a 5.3 for Heimgartner. They have taken the fuel stop for the Smeg Holden Commodore. Just looking at... Oh, he just dropped back into the 6.1s there.
He's pushing. He's got to.
Definitely pushing, because we saw Andre lose the better part of a second on one of those laps. May have been lapping a car. He's looking pretty relaxed in the cockpit, though.
Well, part of the reason there of taking your hand off the gear stick, Jamie, is that if you rest your hand on it, it tends to ignite the ignition cut, and it can actually retard the engine while you're trying to go flat out. So you've got to get your hand off it, so to speak.
So eloquently put, Greg.
Yeah, it didn't come out the best way, did it? But I can tell you, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's a discipline you've got to learn very quickly. Otherwise, you tend to blame the car on not performing.
Let's watch the wheel work up over the top of the hill. Geez, that car looks settled, doesn't it?
It does look good there, very good. Not much wheel work going on, whereas we saw earlier in the race with Jack Perkins, like quarters of turns on working that number 1 car.
Well, Heimgartner's just done a 5.6, Evans a 5.8. So again, similar lap pace. These two were clear of this car, Angus Fogg. So he's got by Tim Edgell. Angus Fogg is second on track currently behind Andre Heimgartner. Whereas the difference is Edgell and Moore have both taken their fuel stops.
Now Edgell's turn to go wide through Fox corner.
It just mistimes the run through the S's, doesn't it? He'll lose time here, Angus Fogg and Moore's.
What happens, Jamie, is it just... If you get it wrong at turn 1, you have to slow the car down a lot more for turn 2 and 3 and 4 respectively. So it's a real lap killer.
This is a battle for position. Moore down the inside of Edgell.
And he's going to try to cut back, but he's gone incredibly wide. So he's made a little error of judgment there to do the switchback.
Oh, a little step out under brakes, and he's very, very wide. He's struggling to get that car stopped. Pit window is now open for the compulsory driver changes. Heimgartner goes through at a 5.5. Second place, Angus Fogg. Just going up over the top of the hill. The gap back to Foggy at the line is 20 seconds. 20 seconds. And Foggy has not stopped. So these driver changes are going to happen very, very quickly, very, very soon. They've got 6 laps to get it done in. And it's going to come down to seconds. It's going to come down to half seconds. Heimgartner a 5.5. Half a second quicker than Evans on that last lap.
Moore's trying to. You see the back of the car again. Slipping out there on the approach to turn 5, the BNTS's. So everyone's working hard. It's Foggy. Locks a good one.
Runs it wide.
Not quite the opportunity. And he doesn't take it. Now over the top of Sound Hill. There you go. And Moore still tucked up.
That was from Race Radio. Under investigation, car 9, Dominic Story, for a possible infringement on pit lane. Again, will get marked. Oh, Fogg sideways on the approach to 1. He is right on the limit.
Some of these cars are all over the place, and we haven't even gone halfway into this race. I'm wondering whether some of these guys are going to struggle on tyres, Jamie.
Well, it is hotter, but we've seen these tyres in hotter conditions than this, but it's the abrasiveness of maybe a couple of different parts of the circuit with the resealing.
Here he goes.
Foggy locks up, he gets it stopped, but only just.
Moore saw it, so he took a whole lot of curb at turn 5. This is going to be his opportunity. Boy, he doesn't want to give it in. He locks another wheel. He's in trouble.
Yeah, right front that time. We've seen issues. And Angel runs very, very wide. He's struggling to get stopped.
Whoa. So things melting down. Here's Paul Manuel out. Shea Davies in. The number 15 car. These guys,
that worked. That was better than race 1 when Shea pulled the door rubber out of it. Oh, store low for Manuel.
Those guys worked long and hard between race 1 and 2 to try and get that car. It's not the best. This is an awesome battle, not for position. Here we go. Here comes Varney, Perkins, Edgell. It'll be interesting how these guys react to what they have been given.
There shouldn't be too many dramas for Jack Perkins and Greg Murphy. They've been some of the best with their pit stop changes.
No, it's not that. It's the condition of the car that they hand over to.
Yeah. So Heimgartner's still your race leader. He's just done a 105.7, completed lap 35. So Murph in.
And look, relatively slick. Murph goes down, tightens his belts up. Steve Owen out, who's been very quick in this car all weekend.
Yeah, that was a very, very good. So they were 4 seconds quicker than Paul Manuel's driver change, 2:01 on the outlap.
Guys, just talking about Paul Manuel's stop was 15.5. Murphy and Jack Perkins, 10.9.
Yeah, that's the benchmark, isn't it? Anything under 11 seconds is just about perfect.
Here we go. We've got some action here. This is Story handing over to the Australian Nick Percat, Walkinshaw racing driver, and Richard Moore and Angus Fogg as well. So all handing over to Australian V8 supercar drivers, the whole lineup there.
Now, Mark, it looks like Edgell and Owen lost a huge amount of time on their pit stop, like 10 seconds plus.
Guys, I don't know if you can see this coming out of pit lane, but this is just magnificent. All 3 cars coming together. Moore is actually leapfrog Dominic's Story, and Angus' car is probably losing that battle, but man, that was magnificent to see.
Yeah, Moore about 3 seconds slower than the number 1 of Perkins and Murphy. Timmy Edgell, on their outlap, they've lost a huge amount of time.
Error, ignore race management.
Just heard some strange noises in the background on someone's car. Can't remember who it or see who it was, but it sounded like something loose or flapping, like potentially a flat-spotted tyre.
Maybe a front splitter. Heimgartner's still your race leader. On lap 37, 105.6, he is the fastest driver on track. Now, the interesting thing here about Andre Heimgartner, Drakey, and something that we've probably overlooked, he has never won an NZ Super Tourer race. Hard to believe, I know, because he's one of only a handful of drivers as the Evans car is in, and Heimgartner.
Now, listen, that sounded like the Richard Moore car making that noise. So Tim Slade at the wheel of that is the Smeg Holden.
Van
Goes in for
Gisbergen
its driver change. And he's pretty slick and used to that. Here goes.
That looked quick. They're clapping in the pit garage too.
Now that Heimgartner car stopped for fuel, so it's going to have to stop on the next lap for a driver change.
Okay, so that's a fuel stop for the 22. We'll keep it updated on that. Evans, Van Gisbergen, they are the quickest in the pit stops. They've made a second up even on the Murphy Perkins one.
Guys, if you wonder why the Smeg team are high-fiving each other, 10.7 seconds for the driver change, 14.5 seconds for the fuel stop for the Heimgartner car.
Yeah, that probably took a little bit longer than they would have liked. They were 3 seconds slower on the fuel stop, and that was about the gap. A little bit more than the gap that they had between them before the fuel stop for the 4. So Mark Gibson in the Blackwood Protector Ford.
So here is the battle for 8th, actually, with all the Australians. Tim Slade, Nick Pukekohe and Tony Delbury. Now, did you hear that noise?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just wondering if it's maybe a front splitter.
It's either that or a tyre. And we saw, obviously, in race 1 with Greg Murphy's tyre. And Mark Pedersen made the comment to us after race 1 that he could hear it coming over the hill when it had that flat spot.
So this is the interesting thing. So Heimgartner's back in on pit lane. Mark Pedersen's just told us, Mark, Heimgartner back in. This will be for the driver change.
And he's left us to the absolute last minute. Seemed to have overshot.
Pit lane entry is now closed.
Entry is now closed for driver change.
Well, he got that side of it done pretty quick. Russell in the car.
Yeah, Aaron struggled a little bit once he was in to get everything up. Co-driver light is on.
Struggling, boys. It was 16.3 seconds.
Oh, that's going to hurt at the other end. So we now know the 4 car has made both of their stops.
Well, both
Van Gisbergen in the car, they both have, and there's the gap. Heimgartner was leading before the pit stops, and that's turned around. And the job just got harder for Aaron Russell, you would think, because he's got to chase down Shane Van Gisbergen here.
Well, in light of the fact that, whoa, look at that. Whoa, it's a big slide through goal corner onto the back straight. And this guy hasn't done many laps around this track. He's been here in a star car, which is half the size of one of these cars, but that was a long time ago. So talking to him before race 1, he just said it's just taken a lot longer than what he thought, but that's traditionally what happens.
For our Australian viewers, that's very similar to the Aussie racing cars that currently race in Australia. I loved watching those cars at Bathurst, and apparently they're coming to New Zealand to race at Highlands in January as part of the muscle car meeting down there. So of those yet to stop for fuel, the top 5, D'Alberto, your race leader from Murphy, Gibson, Hanley, Davies. They have not taken their fuel stop. So the first car that has taken both of their stops is Shane Van Gisbergen ahead of Aaron Russell. And then it'll be Slade and Morton. Slade at the wheel. And the 9 of Dominic Story with Nick Pukekohe at the wheel of the SG Fleet Holden. Here's Andre Heimgartner. Hot and sweaty. And it is a little bit hotter this morning for the second race. We saw in race number 1.
Suffering from a bit of hay fever, from what we understand as well. As he handed the car over to his DVS development series mate.
Well, at the end of this race, most of the co-drivers will be in the cars, 7 of them. There's still 5 cars yet to take their fuel stop at least, and it's the top 5 cars on the racetrack. D'Alberto, your race leader, he's lapping in the 6.0s. Murphy, 4.6 seconds back, 6.2 last lap. Mark Gibson in third, a 6.9. He's a further 4 seconds back on Greg Murphy. Then you go to this battle. This is for 8th, 9th, and 10th. In fact, well, the race leader's in there, Tony D'Alberto, so Moore in 8th. Nick Pukekohe in 9th.
Good mileage for these guys heading into the season finale at Sydney next weekend. Final round of the championship, and this young man we're on board with is, and I would think is a pretty good year. He's shown exceptionally good speed. He's got his leg up there, giving him a bit of a rest. Twiddle of the thumbs.
Bit of a finger tap on the knee there. Yeah, he's not bad. Former Bathurst winner. That's not bad to have on the credentials.
Yeah, Carrera Cup Formula Ford. He's had a very strong history, and He's only 26 years old.
Well, right now, barring fuel stops for the top 5, this is the battle for 3rd and 4th. As Slade runs it in deep. These two teammates at Walkinshaw Racing and V8 Supercars. There's Foggy. Hope those pills work for you, Foggy.
Yeah, the part of the satellite operation at Walkinshaw Racing.
So of the cars that have taken both of their stops, this is the battle for 3rd and 4th. And the race leaders just in behind them, Tony D'Alberto, yet to take their fuel stop. So all of the driver changes have been completed, obviously at the conclusion of lap 38. So D'Alberto's pace 6.2. Gibson is 6.9. Murphy 5.9. Murphy has not taken their fuel stop. And he's on pit lane now. Greg Murphy for the fuel stop.
See what these guys do here. A lot closer to the line. Oh, struggling to get the car up on the jacks.
Oh, that took a lot of time.
That was probably about 4 seconds before even got the thing in the hole.
That didn't look as clean as they probably wanted it to be, Mark.
11.6 seconds, fellas, but it was 6 seconds before the fuel even started flowing. So, yeah, a little bit of work to do.
A lot of the guys have got a bit of work to do in that respect, don't you reckon? Or are they all just being a little bit cautious?
Well, there's no need to be cautious, Shane, as we know, because we went to the driver's briefing and they explained to the teams very clearly what rights they have in pit lane. And it was only really the Evans team that actually exploiting the... Oh, sorry, the Timmy Edgell team that exploiting the rules to the best of their ability.
Even saying that, though, I mean, based on the going across the stripe, the Murphy-Perkins .1 was still a couple of seconds up on the 4 car. So Tony D'Alberto, your race leader, his pace at the moment, there he is there, 105.992. Yet to take their fuel stop, though.
It's on board, Van Gisbergen.
Down the inside of
Shea Davies. Was he giving him a wave there, do you think?
It was the Mafia wave, wasn't it? It was the back of the hand.
Don't know what happened prior to that, but obviously something irked SVG on, which doesn't happen that often.
So 106.5 that last lap for Van Gisbergen. He lost a little bit of time, obviously, with an issue with Shea Davies over there on the backside of the circuit. Dominic Story, very, very good stint. First half of race 2 in the SG Fleet Holden Commodore. D'Alberto, Gibson, Hanley, top 3, yet to take their fuel stop. First of the cars of the 2 stoppers is Shane Van Gisbergen, now 4th on the scoring.
Guys, just a bit of an update on the Dominic Story investigation. The investigation is simply for when they're doing the refueling. They're not too sure whether the fuel was put in before the car went up in the air. So they're going to review that after the race and make a bit of a decision.
So there might be a couple of issues to come out post-race for this one, heading into race number 3.
That's in contrast to race 1. I saw Ross Thurston, the IPO, independent prosecuting officer. He was heading home. There was nothing to do, so that makes a change.
Yeah, might be a little bit busier today. So again, D'Alberto, your race leader, on lap 45. 106.3 for D'Alberto. 2 cars ahead of him on track. Still in that 8th and 9th position, but there's a fair amount of traffic ahead of them that have not made their fuel stop yet, and they've got until the penultimate lap to get that fuel stop, the compulsory fuel stop done. Tudors Holden was very, very quick back here in March. He struggled a little bit at the supercars in April, but was a race winner back here in March, one of 24 different race winners over the history of the V8 SuperTourers series. On pit lane is Andrew Waits, Simply Leasing number 14 Ford. That was out of the 11th position. So they've completed both of their stops. Like a nice clean stop, not too much drama there. On board with Nick Percat chasing down Tim Slade. It was a very good stop for the Varney Weight machine. They were only a second slower than Murphy and Perkins. Oh, there's some traffic here. Yep. They've just picked up Andrew Waite as they 14's come out at pit lane, right in front of the race leader, the Property Tutors holding to Tony D'Alberto. He's just dropped back into the 5s with a 5.9 on the previous lap.
Wadey gets out of the road, knowing that there's a fair battle going on here.
So looking at the gap between Van Gisbergen and Russell. 4th and 6th on track, they've got Paul Manuel in between them. Shea Davies in the car, a 5.6 for Van Gisbergen, a 6.5 for Russell, 9/10ths on that last lap. So there's just D'Alberto, Gibson, Hanley and Davies, I think, to make their fuel stop to cycle everyone back onto the same sequence. On board with Mark Gibson. Currently 2nd.
Looking at the times, Jamie, a lot of these guys are struggling. Things warming up a fair bit. Look at that. They're struggling with time. I mean, a lot of these cars just do not look anywhere near what they started with.
Well, the only driver in the 5s at the moment is Shane Van Gisbergen in the 4th position.
And that thing didn't look like it was going over bumps very well either. Look at it. He's busy. That tends to put a bit of a sweat on the brow. And then it drips into your eye and then it stings. There's John McIntyre hiding. Oh, I see.
That's what he was hiding. Okay. That explains a lot. Movember's got a lot to answer for.
It does,
there are some awful moustaches up and down pit lane. Great calls though. Oh, big lock up for Gibson. He's going to straight line the S's. That was sprint car style.
I'll tell you what, it was a great decision. He started turning into the corner, then decided, you know what, I'm not going to try this.
Thought better of it. Managed to keep it out of the tyre stacks because they are quite tight there and these cars do not have a big turning circle at all. So D'Alberto continuing on, 48 laps complete. 106.2 for D'Alberto. This is the moment on board.
Yep, look at that. I mean, great split-second decision to take the escape road, because if you get off in the grass here with the on and off rain, there's potentially you're going to get stuck.
So the 3rd place car is Chris Hanley in the Ferndale Farms Ford. Yet to take their fuel stop, I believe. So just ahead there is Van Gisbergen, now up to 3rd on track, but the first of the cars with 2 completed stops. Again, he's the only car in the 5s. I say that. Tim Slade's just dropped into the 5s with a 5.9. Fastest lap of the race, a 4.9 from Simon Evans in his first stint. Now the gap with the 2 stoppers between Van Gisbergen and Russell is about 15 seconds. Remembering that we have yet to see a couple of cars with their fuel stops. There's Simon Evans, pretty relaxed.
How's the seat? He's in the director's chair.
Looked like it, didn't it?
Oh, look at that race seat for the pit bunker as well.
So D'Alberto 106.5. So the interesting thing here is Foggy and D'Alberto were good early. They are going to come into the sequence probably in that battle group, potentially for 3rd, 4th and 5th. I think Heimgartner and Russell may have a big enough of a lead, but Russell is losing some time. He's in the 7.0 last lap. And everyone around him is in the low to mid 6s. Van Gisbergen's the exception. He's just done a 5.7. So D'Alberto's still leading the race in the Property Tutors Holden. And here is the fuel stop for the 3. Tony D'Alberto down into pit lane, gets it stopped before the 40 speed limit.
Well, remember, he had some contact heading in there in race 1. Quite spectacular. He made up a heck of a lot of time. And this is a long pit lane here at Pukekohe. And there's John McIntyre in the Gibson in the background coming in as well.
So race leader Tony D'Alberto on pit lane now. The interesting thing here is where he cycles back in. He should have made some gains. I think he's going to drop into that battle group with Murphy, Perkins, Moore, Slade, Story, Percat. I think the Murphy cars made some improvements during the stint. It's Brent Robb on the air. Fuel in, car out, D'Alberto down pit lane. How was that, Mark?
Sorry, boys, are just getting ready for the McIntyre stop as well. 11.3 for the Delberto Fog car.
So he cycles out and he's got a lot of clear air there.
That's one of the best fuel stops.
Yeah, no, the McIntyre one was 13.6, but interesting, the rear wheels rotated, albeit very slightly when the car was in the air, so no doubt the officials will have a look at that too.
So back to the lead goes Shane van Gisbergen. Still a couple of cars yet to take their fuel stops. I think the Hanley Rollinson Ford will be one of them. The Manuel Davies Oryx Commodore another. So Van Gisbergen still with 19 laps left to go here. 5.5, 105.5.
He's clearly the fastest guy on the track by a country mile.
Well, Tim Slade was doing 6.2s. Slade's last lap, actually 5.9, so Slade's picked up the pace again. Greg Murphy's last lap is 6.2. Now for the battle, Aaron Russell, a 6.9. And he's only, well, he's 8 seconds clear of Tony D'Alberto, who has rocked into that third position with that fuel stop. So they've made some gains. On board with the Giz. Looking for his 10th Big 8 Super Tourer victory. Clearly putting him into second. Got nothing on Greg Murphy though with, I think, 22. But after qualifying has won the most poles. Jeff Slater just animated there with what Shane's doing on the wheel. That last lap was a 5.6. He's the only car in the 5s, other than Tim Slade, who at the moment is in 7th, but that should probably translate back to 5th. With Greg Murphy ahead of Tim Slade, and there's only a couple of seconds between the two M3 teammates. On board with Nick Percat, he's just in behind those two in 8th.
That's all he's had to look at for this race, is the back of his Walkinshaw teammate.
Those 3 cars are full position. Once that cycles through, it's probably going to be 4th, 5th and 6th. D'Alberto and Fogg have definitely jumped them. So Van Gisbergen, Chris Hanley, Shay Davies. Hanley and Davies still to take their fuel stop. Aaron Russell in the number 22 Hydrolink Heingartner Holden doing 107.5s. He's a second slower than the chasing D'Alberto. The gap's down to 6 seconds. So that battle group for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th could very well be very, very shortly. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 5th and 6th.
And by the look of the timing screens, these two boys are going to be on their Walkinshaw teammates' tail, Greg Murphy, for a battle, because they're clearly faster than the number 1 car.
There's Shay Davies on pit lane for the fuel stop, so the 15. Probably we'll see that car come out in around 8th.
Sounds like that car's stalled. Got an issue going on here. I was having a discussion with Paul Manuel between races 1 and 2. Animated discussion on the door rubber in race 1, which didn't allow the door to shut, and he pulled the rubber off and it was flying around inside the cabin. You know, he thought he got rid of it. Next minute it comes damn on top of his lap, and then he got it out of the way again. Then it would come around again. He sounds like a snake in the car.
Yeah, I think he used the word python when I asked him what happened and how he dealt with it, but I just assumed that he just yanked it from inside the car, from around the door frame.
But they've got big. Actually, that car's showing a lot of grass in the front of the.
Well, there was that debris. There was that debris call a little bit earlier on through turns 2 and 3. I wonder if one of them hasn't straight line through there and just pulled some of that debris out on the racetrack. Here is Greg Murphy in 5th, which will be 4th once we see the Hanley Rollinson Ford pit. It's Van Gisbergen, Hanley, Russell, D'Alberto. D'Alberto is chasing down Aaron Russell for second.
Guys, just a bit of an update on the Paul Manuel Shea Davies stop. The stop was 8.5 seconds, which is quite fast, but they said the drivers are complaining of a vibration or a bit of a whinging noise from the tunnel area, so they just took the opportunity to have a bit of a look and sent it on its way.
Yeah, Mark, that car is not right. They mentioned that. It's just they can't get on top of it, and they said it's quite ugly over the bumps especially.
Nick Percat all over the back of Tim Slade.
Smoke out the front of the right front of the number 10 car. Left on as you're looking at it. And he overshot the BNTS's on that lap. So let's keep an eye on that.
Race leader Van Gisbergen at 105.6. He's the only one in the fives at the moment. Just watching Tim Slade, Nick Percat here. 6th and 7th, which will become 5th and 6th with the Hanley car yet to pit. I believe the only car yet to pit for fuel. Obviously all of the driver changes have been done. So Van Gisbergen, Aaron Russell a gap. It was 15 seconds at the conclusion of both fuel stops for both cars. And Russell's been losing time to Van Gisbergen, whose last lap was a 5.7. Aaron Russell at a 7.1.
It could have been the aftermath of a little brake lock-up, potentially. Seems to be okay now as they head up over Sound Hill.
Van Gisbergen, sorry mate.
Sorry guys, speaking to Richard Moore's father here, he said it's definitely a flat spot, Shane, is what you alluded to earlier. We could hear it from pit lane. He said it just got an awful lot worse, and all they can do is manage it now to the end of the race.
Okay.
Geez, they've done well to contend with that for that long though, Mark.
Yeah, what it means, those guys, they've got no contingency if they need to fight or contest somebody, because, as we know, once you've got one flat spot, when you start racing hard, you're going to pick it up again and again and again.
All right, so they may be susceptible. Nick Percat right in behind. Just up ahead of them.
Well, he's got the right man trying to manage the situation as best as possible. And Tim Slade. And now Nick is zeroing in. And he's got to try and catch him off guard in the most vulnerable part of the track where that tyre is likely to pick up. So he'll be being fed information from his pit garage on what's going on.
Now, the battle to watch, I reckon, lads, is going to be D'Alberto chasing down Aaron Russell, because that's down to 3 seconds for third. D'Alberto is 6 seconds further up the road from Greg Murphy, who's just at the front of this onboard shot from Nick Percat. So D'Alberto looks comfortable. Can he get into second? There he is. 3 seconds down the road, and you can see him. Aaron Russell in the Hydrolink 22. D'Alberto's trying hard. You can see with the attitude of the rear of the car under brakes into the BNTS's. Still 11 laps left to go here, though. Van Gisbergen a 105.6. That lead will be out to nearly 30 seconds.
Sorry, Aaron Russell. See the background there. Chris Hanley.
Pitting out of second.
Take his compulsory fuel stop. Young man from Queensland. Had 4 years in the development series as Aaron Russell. And there is
Gene Rollinson in the car.
number 27 Ferndale Farms.
In fact, it's Chris in the car. Still got the co-driver light on.
He's just doing that to confuse us.
That looked pretty clean. So they were pretty good at Hampton Downs with their fuel stops too.
12.2 seconds, so a methodical yet safe stop.
There or thereabouts. No, that looked nice and clean. Right, so Percat working on Slade now. The gap to Murph is only 1.5 seconds. And looking at Slade's pace, he was 3/10 quicker than Murph on that previous lap with a flat spotted tyre.
Well, I don't think think he's going to be wanting to actually shut that gap down. If he's trying to manage this tyre, what he's trying to do is stop this guy from getting past him and getting up to the other guy. So, the advantage of having a teammate.
Van Gisbergen's just dropped back into the low sixes. Drew Russell is 7-2. The gap 32 seconds. Shane Van Gisbergen has over Aaron Russell. D'Alberto is within 2 for the battle for second. 5 seconds back is this group as D'Alberto goes through. 4th, 5th and 6th. D'Alberto 3rd and closing the gap to Aaron Russell for second. Now for the Endurance Series, 1st to 5th at the moment with the Slade Moore machine. The difference is 36 points. That would take it out to 103. The difference going into the final race with 150 points up for grabs for the final one. Oh, Aaron Russell, very, very wide on the approach to the final 2 corners. He's coming under pressure from D'Alberto, who's on the hunt. Last lap for D'Alberto was a 6.7, a 7.5 for Russell. D'Alberto a 6.8, 7/10 a lap.
It's going to be a foregone conclusion, isn't it? I mean, the young man from Queensland hasn't driven anything like this on a track like this, so it's a little bit daunting, especially when you get given the handlebars and your car's battling for the lead.
He's been campaigning in the Dunlop Development Series for 4 seasons now.
That's right, and if you want a tongue twister, Nova Castrian Motorsport is the name of his team.
Nova Castrian.
Nova Castrian.
Nova Castrian.
It's a bit of a handful, isn't it?
It's a mouthful. So Van Gisbergen, he's dropped back into the 5s, a 5.7. There's 2nd and 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th in that shot. But 30 plus seconds down on Van Gisbergen and Simon Evans, who are looking for their 6th win. Oh, Russell with a... That was a huge moment. He dropped the left side off onto the grass over the top of the hill, and D'Alberto's now right there with him.
Aaron's got to do here is just keep his eyes forward instead of what's going on behind. It's going to happen, so might as well just let it happen. See, big slide.
You would expect D'Alberto to pick him off here. So for Andre Heimgartner, he's going to lose a little bit of ground to the Evans-Van Gisbergen combination as well, points-wise, going into this race, 127 down.
Oh, he battles with it. He battles with it.
Gets it done now. I think Russell might have just got out of that, thinking, yeah, you got a little bit more car speed than I have. That's the battle for second. Tony D'Alberto now up into second in the Property Tutors Holden.
The best thing that Aaron can do here is follow D'Alberto, because he's got 3 other cars looming up in the background with about 6 laps to go. So just see what D'Alberto does and where he goes on the track. There are different lines that you use around the track to get around the bumps, and it's only something that experience will give you.
Well, there's the next equation. Can Murphy get to Aaron Russell with 7 laps left to go here? I tell you what, this gap is closing. Murphy is on it. Murphy is on it. So we may go into this final race with just 2 cars in contention for the Endurance Championship with 150 points up for grab. I think Heimgartner might still be in the rounds. So 3rd, so that difference is 21. That would take it to 148. So they're still in the equation at the moment. But if Greg Murphy can get to Russell, it might take them out of the equation. Looking at Murphy's pace, last lap was a 6.9 versus an 8.4 for Russell. But that did include the pass from Tony D'Alberto. Back on board, the Mike Perro #1. Slade continues to hold off Nick Percat.
Yeah, Murphy's thing is not quick, so like I mentioned, if Russell can just keep in tow with D'Alberto. And here's Percat up the inside.
Seizes the opportunity, and that's going to hurt Moore and Slade in the points chase. That's cost them.
And I'll tell you what, this guy could now quite quickly get to Greg Murphy. So Murphy's got 2 things on his plate at the moment. He's got the guy in front, and now he's got the guy in rear. So let's keep an eye on the timesheets.
So 42 points difference first to sixth. Remembering that Moore and Slade's second in the series behind Van Gisbergen and Evans for the endurance part of the championship.
Hey guys, just a bit of update. The Moore car, they got the tyre out, they got the air lance out, and after the crew's moving into pit lanes. So expecting a tyre change coming up.
It's slowed. Oh, he's flat. Mork, he's gone flat.
That explain that then, Shane?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
This is going to hurt them in the points. Yeah, right front is definitely down on the Mike Perro 10. Oh, that is devastating.
Pukekohe just come from nowhere, so it must have happened going up over the hill that he felt it. Fortunately, you're nowhere near the pit lane entry, so it's a long lap.
They've done an amazing job to salvage that long on a flat spotted tyre, because you guys picked it up on the audio very, very early in this second race. So this is going to change the points calculations dramatically. First and second in the endurance series, advantage Evans and Van Gisbergen. It's Van Gisbergen continuing to circulate around in the high fives, 5.9. Van Gisbergen out front with 4 laps to go. Again, an eternity down pit lane. Race winners at Hampton Downs, of course, really look to be getting things turned around, but they've struggled with some understeer throughout the weekend.
While this is going on, Murphy has closed that gap to Russell to 1 second.
There's on board with Murph. There is Russell. This is for second.
It's less than that.
Sorry,
now,
for third. No, Delberto's up the road in second. Murphy tried to pick him off down into 1.
Oh, he gives him the room. He gave him a feint, and he nearly got it.
Look to set him up onto the run into the back straight. Russell trying to hold on here. Van Gisbergen leads from Delberto. This now is the battle for third.
And it should be relatively straightforward. Murphy signals his intentions. Oh, look at this. He's out of control heading into the BNTSs.
Russell couldn't get it stopped. He's still struggling to get it stopped. Just missed that last tyre bundle.
He doesn't like giving up, does he?
Murphy's going to pick him off.
But look who's looming in the background as well.
Nick Pukekohe right there as well. Third, fourth and fifth, nose to tail. The concluding laps, race 2 for the BNT NZ SuperTourers at Pukekohe.
Now, Pukekohe's going to want to get this done very, very quickly if he's got any chance of getting Murphy. He's got nothing there. He's going to end up probably doing it in the same place.
And that puncher for Richard Moore and Tim Slade has cost them a huge amount of points. 67 points at the start of the races. Russell under pressure here from Pukekohe. That gap is now out to 130. Moore and Slade have dropped down to 11th. Oh, Russell trying to crowd him.
You know, he reminds me of this Aaron Russell is Cameron Waters. He doesn't give up, and that's a great move by Nick. Unfortunately, I think Murph is just far enough up the road that he's not going to be able to get him, and he's lost a lot of time. So the young man really not giving any inch on anyone.
Pukekohe fourth, Russell back to fifth. And that's going to take them out of the equation with the final race to come, but the gap between Van Gisbergen, Evans, Slade and Moore is now out to 130, with Moore and Slade in 11th place.
Car 27, drive-through penalty, lane infringement.
Drive-through penalty, car 27, Rollinson and Hanley for a pit lane infringement. Just hearing that call on race radio. Lap and a half left to go. Dominic Story talking to the team. Nick Pukekohe up into fourth. Can he get to Greg Murphy? Gap is a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I think Nick lost a lot of time in trying to execute that pass on Aaron Russell.
And out in front of these guys by over 30 seconds, Shane Van Gisbergen is trundling around in the mid-fives, a 5.6 on the last lap. And these guys are in the high sevens, high sixes, low sevens. Percat sideways, you could just hear the chirp in the effects mics.
It was a nice slide too, beautiful slide over the top of that mountain.
Van Gisbergen, D'Alberto, Murphy, Percat. So D'Alberto's only a couple of seconds ahead of Greg Murphy. 6.9 for D'Alberto, 6.6 for Murphy, 6.3 for Percat. So Murphy's got good pace at the end of this second race. There's the 5th place Russell in the background. And there's the race leader. Last lap board is out for Shane Van Gisbergen and Simon Evans. Van Gisbergen looking for win at number 10 and total domination here in the second race. Over a 30-second advantage over Tony D'Alberto.
He's still trying. Goes a little bit wide into the BNTS's. Rear of the car moving around a lot, but that's just what you come to expect of this guy.
Win number 10 solidly putting him into second on the winners list behind Greg Murphy, who I don't think is ever going to be beaten with 22 plus. 22, I think it is. Simon Evans, though, going to win number 6. That would put him 3rd on the win list behind Scott McLaughlin with 7 wins. Take nothing away. Shane Van Gisbergen and Simon Evans. Checkered flag. They take the victory in race number 2.
Race management.
And are going to have an excess of 100-point lead. I make it as 130 going into the final race with 150 points up for grabs. If this battle is not quite over yet for the minors, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th.
Well, it would take a big mistake for this order to finish.
Tony D'Alberto moves, trying hard though. Shane Davies in the middle. So Percat's not going to be able to get to Murph. You'd think D'Alberto could hold down from here. On board with Percat. Van Gisbergen's already taken the win. There's the Hanley Rollinson Ford taking its drive through. As the checkered flag is out, D'Alberto will finish 2nd, paired with Angus Fogg and the Property Tutors. Holden Commodore 48 seconds behind the race leader. Race winner Greg Murphy in 3rd. Nick Percat 4th, Aaron Russell in 5th, paired with Andre Heimgartner. And completing the top 6 will be Tim Edgell and Steve Owen. Steve Owen doing the last stint. Shane Van Gisbergen, another win for the Smeg Racing Commodore, with 1 race left to go in the endurance part of the championship. Total domination, Shane.
He didn't have it all their own way at the start.
Oh, certainly. Heimgartner was very good.
Heimgartner took it to them. A little bit of time lost in the stops, time lost with the co-driver, but that's the advantage that these guys have, is that this guy here is one heck of a co-driver.
Confirming the results for race number 2, utter domination from the Evans, Van Gisbergen, Holden 48 seconds clear of Fogg and D'Alberto. Murphy and Perkins on the 3rd and final podium. Story and Percat in 4th, great result for them, and that matches their 4th place in race number 1. Heimgartner and Russell 5th, Gibson McIntyre 6th, Edgell Owen 7th, Manuel Davies 8th, Barney Waite 9th, Hanley and Gene Rollinson in 10th.